Well, welcome back to the late day wrap up, and we got plenty to talk about today, following up from this morning's short-term analysis on Bitcoin. Obviously, take a look at the major US indices like Nasdaq and SPY, and then a little bit of gold action, and of course, starting off with the star of them all, Mr. Dixie, the one pair to rule them all, as everything trades against the dollar, of course. So with that said, we'll start off right here, and of course, if you also do want the more in-depth analysis, definitely check out this morning's video for Bitcoin, as well, it's just not going to be the same thing here. Anyways, for Dixie, what do we see? So we still see it playing within that same range on the weekly. Want to put these drawing tools back on, still looking at a range between just above 91 bucks and just below 89 and 3/4 right here. And as long as that's holding, I do still look at this as like a macro bottoming area, meaning that since seeing as we just tested the top side of the range, we did get the pullback that we're speaking about, and now I'd be looking for, well, actually it's getting pretty damn close to the low side of this range. So let's go down to the very low term timeframes here. Let's go down to like a daily, and I probably actually would be looking for this one to take another stint a little bit lower, maybe back down to that 89.80ish region. But overall, I am looking for some more bottoming action within this region. I mean, shit, you could even see potentially a low put in right here coming into next week, but it depends completely on what happens today. So if today does close something like this, and then you see on Monday it take out the high side of this being $90 and 30 cents, spot 7 right there, then yes, I would be looking at this as potential actually inverted head and shoulders in progress. I'd be targeting to move back up towards that $91 region. However, keep in mind these things typically do take their time, and while I would be looking probably, realistically, I don't think that that's what's going to happen. I think we probably do come down a little bit lower, below 90 bucks once again. But more importantly, all of it is a setup for the next few weeks to come. And as long as we're holding this range, again, that 89 and 3/4 this region on a weekly closure, I look at it as more or less a macro low in progress, similar to what you saw back and over here, which took about a little bit over 3 months. I think we measured it out yesterday. It was 15 weeks. In the last macro low that we had before that was way the fuck back on over here in May 2011. Again, about a 3-month long stint before an actual reversal. Same thing over here in the reversal preceding that in May 08. Again, another 3 months. Same thing over here on this macro low and on this macro low prior in all the way in May 95, believe it or not, at about just below 82 bucks. Holy shit, man, that's quite the time. But all of them do take, quite some time. And to put in perspective right now, we've been hanging on to this level for about 1, 2, 3, 4, just about to wrap up week number 5. So while I do think that Dixie probably does bounce around here, it's still going to take a little bit of time. Could take another couple months if it really wants to. Again, assuming that the condition is met that it does not break below 89 and 3/4. So again, extremely short term, I'd be looking for a little bit of downside here, but I'd be looking for a bounce likely to open up next week. So with that in mind, let's go check out major US indices. Where is my Nasdaq? Nasdaq still looking more or less fine. Came back down, backfilled yesterday's open, popped back up. We did say that there was very likely to be a retest of the prior all-time high today, and we actually haven't quite gotten there just yet, but I mean, in this case right here, it does look like it wants to have another melt up, to be fair. Again, now that we do have a little bit of a higher low structure on the lower term timeframes, and yes, I actually do think that you can use an hourly on traditional markets, and it's completely fine, just because, I mean, it only trades 5 days a week for 6.5 hours each day, which is kind of different than the 24/7 market that we see in spot markets for Bitcoin. But as of right now, yes, this 13,315-ish region is now a nice little short-term pivot, meaning that as long as we're above there, I essentially look for this to flag out and march its way upwards and onwards. The volume is the key indicator right here, as we do see it increasing on all of the drives to the upside, and I'd essentially be looking for this one to print new all-time highs, probably coming into next week. Again, assuming that we just don't break below this level, basically today. With that in mind, what are the next upside targets? I think we had 13,450 as it was. Yeah, 13,450 right here, but you could say that we pretty much already hit that, came about 20 bucks shy of it. The next real one's going to be about 13,600-ish region, at which point I would be looking for another small pullback there. Moving on to SPY futures over here, same shit. We did hit about our 2-spot 414 extension at just under 2870-ish region. Yeah, 2860 it looks like right there. Kind of the same analysis on this one ultimately, as I do think that Nasdaq's more or less leading right now, as you do see that SPY has obviously gotten a deeper retracement here. But if Nasdaq does head upwards and onwards, which does look more healthy in comparison, then I'd look for that one to give the direction, and then SPY probably does pop back up and test around 3850-ish region coming into next week. Now, of course, we can make the same sort of corollary between this and Nasdaq, and that would be this low structure right around 3820-ish region, of which, as long as that does hold, I essentially look for things kind of level out right here and do pop back up coming into next week. But again, that condition must be met. And if we're looking at a daily, It's fine. I mean, do we have any bearish divergences to be aware of here? Actually, we do, potentially, depending upon how today closes. If today does close anywhere below, especially about 30, I mean, basically anywhere here or lower, then yeah, actually, we would have some bearish divergence. We could drive targets down a little bit lower into next week, maybe 3,800, maybe a little bit below 3,800. But for right now, I go with Nasdaq. If Nasdaq wants to have another move to the upside, I would, I'd respect that, and I'd be looking for SPY to actually follow. Anyways, moving on to gold. Where's my gold? Where's that piece of shit gold? There you are. Found you, gold. 1850 once again. Puking up that rally a little bit more now, but let's go back to the weekly. We did say yesterday that while it does look good, I really want to see this weekly closure. The most obvious thing that could happen is if it closed back above 1863, just a 21 exponential moving average on the weekly. If that were to happen by end of day today on closure, then I would drive targets back up towards 1950 and probably beyond over time, as we do see weekly Stochs still nice and angled to the upside, and weekly RSI, more or less no divergences there, but it would look okay, at least for a nice short-term up. However, coming down at the end of today, I guess we have another 6.5 hours worth of trading, so I'm going to be asleep by the time that this one closes, but I'd really keep an intentful eye on that, because if it does close below, it's not a death sentence for it, but I would keep the situation open for another retest of the 55, which is 1776, which is actually the target that I was looking for coming into this week, which it looks to me like you got front ran, but if it did come back down around there, I'd actually look at that as an opportunity for a little bit more of some bottoming action. But for right now, I do still respect at least some short-term upside coming into next week, although when I look at the lower-term timeframes right here, I definitely do not feel that way. You know what? No, I'm going to be wrong about that. And the right thing to do was to wait for the weekly yesterday, not to call it before. So that was actually proper to be a little bit more erring on the side of caution. I'd be looking for this one actually swipe the lows again coming in next week. 1825 to 1830ish region probably does bounce there. The key is how does it respond after that? So while I do think that there's some short-term down, I would be looking for a bounce off this region, and then we'll come back to it next week and see how everything looks, because right now we still have too many variables going on with the weekly close still hanging overhead. Moving on to Bitcoin now, I guess. Yeah, we can get over to Bitcoin. All right, Bitcoin, what are you doing? Bitcoin getting the bounce that we spoke about on this morning's video. I think we were trading a little bit below 31,000 at that point. I did say any move between about 33,000 and 34,000 looks about right. 4 hour right here looks like it does want a gun for the 21 exponential moving average short term. That would be 33.4. Yeah, 33,450ish region. Anywhere around there's anywhere around there is fine. If we're going down to like extremely low term time frame, crack trader time frames here, I'm sure that people are going to call this an inverted head and shoulders. You could actually make the argument for that. It's just I don't really care for patterns in general, and I don't really care for patterns on low term time frames, especially. But in this case, does it work out? Yeah, technically it does work out. What would its measure move be? Well, if I do a bit some bad mental math right now, it looks like it would be actually at around $35,000 if I'm reading that properly. But here's the thing. I really want to see how the 12-hour closes today. If the 12-hour closes above the 55, which is $33,000, which is actually, lower than my than my 4-hour target, then I'd actually extend this run over the weekend. Yeah, actually to about $35,000, and then we'll talk about it after that. So again, whether I'm bullish or bearish on this long term, I still would be looking for a little bit more of a bouncy bounce behavior off this region, and then we'll come back into it tomorrow over the weekend. The only thing that would make me very obviously bearish and looking for further continuation to the downside, like not next week, but pretty much now, would be this. Any sort of a 4-hour closure below about 30,500 or basically 30,700. Let's just call it 30,500 because it's easier to say. But if that does happen, then yes, I would be looking for a move back down to 27.5. Probably does try to bounce at 27.5, but ultimately I'd be looking for a meltdown towards the low $20,000 region, like 23 to 24,000 bucks, just based off of our prior structure coming in from the rally out of this region in middle of December, which I would still actually be very much respectful of. So with that in mind, still well and far away, but that would be the conditions for that. And as it stands right now, is there anything else? Yeah, we do see all lower term time frame momentum also is still pointed north right here. 4-hour Stokes, nice and erect. 3-hour Stokes, erect AF. 2-hour Stokes, very erect. Hourly Stokes, actually still erect and painfully erect on this one. So fair enough, short term a little bit of upside, but I really want to see how the daily closes and by extension the 12-hour closes. That could drive targets a little bit higher over the weekend, but I want to see that one in real time. And of course, if 30,500 breaks to the downside, which I'm not necessarily looking for it to do, at least for the time being, then we can talk about moves back down to like 27.5, maybe even lower over time. So with that said, I want to wish you the best and the happiest. Take care, and until next time.